Hello, welcome back. This is Miniature Mike, and after a lot of requests and after a lot of time, I finally am ready to do Obi-Wan Kenobi. Definitely one of the last major characters that I haven't gone to yet, so I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's jump right into it with the OG Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this is the Obi-Wan from the starter set and also from Rebel Storm. So this guy, let's see what we got going on here. So the HP of this person is poor, so for 38 I kind of expect more HP. So when it comes to this Obi-Wan Kenobi, the HP's not really there. The survivability isn't exactly there too. I know you do have Force Heals, that is nice, to kind of give you a little extra survivability, but it's like, I'd say probably help with range survivability, since if you get hit from far away, you can go heal yourself potentially. But that's not what I have in mind for this Obi-Wan. I kind of want this Obi-Wan to do some damage fast and then die, so that my Force user of choice will be super powered, basically. And I'll get to that in a second. But the attack on this one, honestly, pretty solid attack. Like, having 14 on a 38 is pretty high for a melee character, so definitely good there. Max damage is pretty normal. Special abilities are just melee double, nothing too special, but the Force powers are pretty insane. I would give this a 5, except there's another Obi-Wan Kenobi whose Force power is even better, so I had to kind of give the nod to that one. But still, the reason why it's good is you have Force 5, a good start. You can use those Force 5 on heal and sweep, which is solid, you know, especially sweep if you want to do a lot of group damage, area damage fast, before maybe, you know, dishing it, being destroyed. And then heal's nice too. But then the real kicker is Force Spirit 8. So Force Spirit 8 basically gives an allied Force user 8 Force points and then Master of the Force 2, basically. And if it already has Master of the Force 2, then Master of the Force 3. And Force 8, like if you get 8 Force points on top of whatever you already have, especially if you have like Renewal or something like that, you're going to have so much Force ammunition to just kick butt. So much to just kick butt for the rest of the game. So in my opinion, Force Spirit 8 is just so powerful. Even Force Spirit 6 on some lesser characters is really strong too, but this is kind of like the supreme iteration. Such a good power. So, I mean, you kind of have to count on this person dying on Obi-Wan, this version of Obi-Wan dying, before you can, you know, give that Force user that big jolt, but I think there's enough here to be able to pull that off. So, super awesome. Force Spirit 8, one of the older characters that definitely still holds up because of that power. So, ability synergy, not there, but versatility is solid because of the Force Spirit, mostly because of the Force powers. You know, decent stats overall, the healing, the sweep, that's nice and versatile. When it comes to Obi-Wans, I give this a great score. A lot of Obi-Wans, only some have Force Spirit 8, but definitely having it makes this one very useful for sure. Blue Milk agrees. And then the specialties is being a Force healer. So my pros is, yeah, Force Spirit 8, incredible. Just an incredible jolt to any Force user, basically. And then sweep is nice to do. You know, you want this Obi-Wan to die relatively quick, in my opinion, so that you can have your main Jedi being, you know, supercharged. So this one can do some damage with sweep before that goes out. And then the cons are, you know, it's a bit old, bit outdated, but that's okay. I mean, there are some Rebel Storm characters that still hold up pretty well, and I think this is one of them that holds up very nicely, in my opinion. So, the original, really nice. I don't really use the original anymore anyways, mostly because there's a few other ones that kind of do the same thing, but maybe a tad better. But still, I wouldn't fault you for using the OG in any way, shape, or form. So, okay, let's move on to General Kenobi from Clone Strike. So overall, this is a good version of Obi-Wan. Definitely not my favorite, and honestly feels like kind of an overlooked version too, but still pretty good. So the HP on this particular version, I'd say is, it's fine. Just having 100 HP on some that's a 36. I know that's pretty similar to just being a 38. It's fine. So the range survivability is solid, because in this time around, you do have deflect, so that's going to help you out a bit. Melee survivability is bad though still. The attack is awesome, so 14 attack. As we're getting cheaper, that high attack is really nice. Max damage, again, Obi-Wan Kenobi's not really known for extreme damage output, and that's okay. Special abilities, again, melee double, we can go on past that. The Force powers are solid. So with these Force powers, it's kind of a hybrid. It's kind of like a stripped down version of some of the Obi-Wans that we normally see. So you do have Force Heal 20 and Deflect. So deflect is nice for that defensiveness, since some Obi-Wans are very vulnerable, some are not, as you'll see later. But it's kind of a weird hybrid because, you have the heal 20 and the deflect, but now you're missing, Force Spirit 8. Or you're missing like a lightsaber assault, which I think is a really good power. So the force powers are fine. They're fine. And then commander effect is actually pretty decent in my opinion. So followers can move 2 extra squares on their turn as part of their move. It's rangeless, so you don't need Masamata in this case. And it's honestly very solid to be able to give that extra mobility. It just kind of helps in the margins to do well. Helps in the margins when you're trying to tactically figure out how you want people to move around. So it definitely is a solid commander effect in my opinion. So ability synergy, I don't think these synergize well together. Rather, I think he's more of a versatile type duelist because he has, the just generally solid stats. He can heal, deflect. Commander effect is also pretty solid. Again, like I said, commander effect really good. Obi-Wan score, it's a solid Obi-Wan Kenobi. Blue Milk would agree too. Versatile duelist. The pros, I think it's just a solid commander effect. And then nice overall tools for the lower cost. It's one of the cheaper Kenobis and definitely is nice. So his cons or his stats, it's funny, he kind of has the stats of Ben Kenobi instead of the younger Obi-Wan Kenobis. You know, 100 HP, 19 defense, 14 attack. Whereas the older Kenobis, they tend to be more like 120 hit points, 20 plus defense, maybe 15 attack, sometimes 14. So not a big deal. It's just this Kenobi, he's good. He's nice for how cheap he is. I think if you put him in the right squads, you get a lot of fun. However, oftentimes this is not a Kenobi I will use very often. Although at the time I could see this Kenobi for Clone Strike being really good on release actually. A very solid Kenobi on release for sure. Especially since it's one of the early Jedi that did have double attack, and a lot didn't. So definitely a solid choice overall. Next we get to the most common miniature in the entire game. So Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Master. So we're all very familiar with this one. I think in the course of buying and selling and trading, I've gone through more of these than several uncommon and common characters. They are everywhere. But don't let that deter you too much. This Obi-Wan Kenobi, when you really strip it down, compare it to other similar costing characters, he's actually really good. Like, he's really, really good. Like, his stats are pretty supreme. The HP is normal, but the range survivability is solid. I mean, you have better defense this time than other Kenobis. You have more HP, and you have deflect as well. So you really are able to survive range people much better than before. The melee survivability is still poor, but like you have solid stats, even though you have no other abilities to help out with that. So that's okay. The attack's insane. So he has 15 attack. I think he's one of the only characters that have 15 attack for this cheap. So definitely really solid overall to be able to have that. That's really good. Being able to have 15 attack. The damage output's normal, but still just the 120, 21, 15, that's really, really good stats for 42. Plus, he also has some powers to boot as well. So special abilities on that front are standard. So I'll move on. Force powers are pretty nice combination. I mean, I really like his force powers. So Force Heal 20 is nice to self-heal or help somebody else heal. It does take a whole activation to do it, and it costs 2 force points, but it is nice to have. Otherwise, Assault is very nice. I'm really a big fan of Assault, being able to move and attack twice. Plus, you have the high attack, so you will land your hits. And then Deflect is also very solid. So, nice, versatile array of force powers going on, in my opinion. And then the verse in general, I'd say the way these powers synergize, not the best, but again, like other Kenobis, very versatile. Great powers for different situations, for defense, for attacking, has a commander effect, can heal allies, very nice versatility overall. The commander effect, and I'm just saying poor in the sense that it's very specific. So unfortunately, having this commander effect it makes him not a follower anymore, which is a bummer, because this Kenobi could benefit awesome from commander effects as well, but it's a bummer that happens. The commander effect is incredibly specific. One character or one set of characters, 6 squares, and plus 4 attack. So on the face of it, that's kind of poor. But if you use the commander effect as intended, there are some Anakins that can tremendously benefit. Like I'm thinking Nelvon, I'm thinking Anakin Skywalker Jedi. Not really the old Anakins, but the newer Anakins. The newer Anakins can tremendously benefit from this, especially the ones with Gemso style, where it's like, okay, I have like 10 attack or 11 attack. Well, now you have 15 or 14 attack, and you can make Anakin's Gemso style hit. The hit rate can just go up much better by having this Obi-Wan Kenobi round. So if you play the commander effect correctly with a solid Anakin that can do some good stuff for you, I'm thinking Anakin of Nelvon. Holy smokes, like that Anakin's going to be dishing out more damage than you would believe. So definitely a very niche commander effect, but a bummer in general, but very nice for that specific situation. So Obi-Wan score, I think he's a really good one. Specialists, he's a versatile duelist. Dirt cheap if you don't have it somehow. Very easy to pick up. Pros, nice, impressive stats, good complement of force powers, can make certain Anakins incredible, or much more incredible in terms of hitting. Anakins can do a lot of attacks typically. They just maybe don't land all of them. And then the cons, just really stale, because this is one of the most common minis in the entire game. So if you kind of set that aside, you can really see it. It's a very, very solid miniature. So even for Revenge of the Sith, which to this day, I feel like Revenge of the Sith is the most underpowered. Heck, I sometimes even think Revenge of the Sith is more underpowered. It's way more underpowered than Clone Strike, and even more underpowered than Rebel Storm in some cases. Yeah, I think it really is. This guy does stand out. He's really good. He's a good... when it comes to Obi-Wans, it's really good. I think there's as you can see, I kind of messed up right there. It says 3. It should have been 3.5. That's my bad. Super solid. Definitely a fan of this character. I don't really use him anymore because he is very stale, but very good. Let's move on to Obi-Wan on Boga. So Obi-Wan on Boga, just to say quickly, basically a clone almost of Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Master, but with a huge base, wall climber, speed 8. So again, really good character. The HP is really nice. It's a little bit better than the last Obi-Wan at 130. The survivability is decent overall because you still have deflect, but now you have some more mobility, despite being huge, which you'd think is a bad thing, and it is. You do have some mobility to kind of compensate for that. The melee survivability is fine. The attack is still exceptional. Max damage is still normal. However, it's kind of a bummer you don't have Assault anymore. I think this character would have benefited so good from having Assault, because you mix the mobility with having Assault. You could just run up, do 2 attacks. You're missing that. That's a bummer. Darn it, but okay. Special abilities are still solid. They're even better now because you have the speed, you have Wall Climber. Force powers are fine. I do miss losing Assault, but Deflect and Heal are nice. This guy needs Deflect anyway, so it's a good thing that he kept it. The synergy is fine. It's actually better synergy in my opinion, maybe a little less versatility, so kind of more even on that front. Obi-Wan score definitely gets a really good rating. Still very solid on Blue Milk. Ironically enough, this was actually one of the last minis I ended up collecting somehow. I don't know why, I had the card for ages, but I just didn't have the mini. So I was just kind of sitting around waiting, trying to find a good opportunity to pick the mini up. So finally got that one. It was I think one of the last 10 characters I hadn't gotten. So, and it's not very necessarily all that uncommon, but it's a little tricky to pick up. So the pros, extremely similar stats. Wow, I misspelled my spelling there. Woof. Powers to, like I said, the other Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Master. Nice mobility, and then the main cons is that it's huge, and then I'd also add you're losing Lightsaber Assault. I think if you had Lightsaber Assault with this character, it would make it really sweet, but because you're not, still really good in my opinion. You have awesome stats, good abilities on this huge character, but anyway, it is what it is. Not bad at all. Alright, now we move on to Luke's Landspeeder, which is Luke and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So this is an interesting one. This one, if you've seen my Luke Skywalker video, is such a freaking monster. Oh my gosh. And let's get into it. So this character, he's awesome. One of the highest rated characters, honestly, from doing this rating system that I've put together. And it's really for good reason. So the HP is exceptional. No shooter, even 47 level shooters, they don't have 140 hit points. They just don't. So that's exceptional. The melee and range survivability is amazing because when it comes to the melee, you have the speed to kind of get away from people, and you have Jedi Mind Trick and Alter. And then when it comes to the range survivability, again, you can use Deflect and Alter still for close situations. You have mobile, speed. It's just crazy. And then you have good HP, solid defense. So your survivability with this character is through the roof. The attack is solid, like really great, and honestly, the damage output isn't there, unfortunately. So kind of like Obi-Wan's, unfortunately, you're just you can do some damage, of course, but this guy's not really there for the damage, unfortunately. So not the best damage output, but it's fine. Like, it's standard at least. The special abilities are awesome, mostly due to having twin attack and speed 10. So you have the speed, you have the twin attack. I think this is even better than Boga because it's a smaller base. Also, I think I overrated it just a little bit because Mandela effect setting in. I actually used to always think that Luke's Landspeeder had flight. I just assumed it had flight. It doesn't. So that being the case, I think I might knock it down just a teeny bit for not having that. But still, like, having that speed 10 and twin attack on someone who's a little smaller and a shooter, really good. Force powers are great. They are limited, but you have so many, and you have great, nice, those like kind of game manipulating powers like Alter, Mind Trick, Deflect, really great. The ability synergy overall, I'd say, is very nice because you have the hit and run ability, and then you also have a lot of abilities. People get too close to you to kind of work your magic. That's where versatility comes in. Being a hit and run character typically makes you very versatile, but these force powers are awesome. Like, you can, make people miss. You can activate characters, and it doesn't even cost it. That's the thing I love about Jedi Mind Trick and having speed, is if someone gets too close to you, you can activate them, run away, and shoot them. So it's really sweet. And then the deflect is also helpful. So great versatility all around. When it comes to Obi-Wan scores, I give this a 4.5. It's so different than the other Obi-Wans. It's funny because it's like, it has some of the force powers you'd expect Obi-Wan to have, like deflect. Other Obi-Wans don't have Mind Trick or Alter. It makes sense why this guy has Mind Trick, of course. It's the first instance you see of Mind Trick getting used in Star Wars. But definitely that's where Obi-Wan comes in this, is with the force powers. But really good. Awesome hit and run character. A little more on the pricey end, not too bad. The pros, incredible hit and run mixed with just high survivability. Extremely versatile shooter overall. And the cons, it's large and he doesn't have flight. Like I said, I used to think this character had flight until I realized it's not even on the card. So it's like, oops. Even without having flight, I'd say this is still great. Just still great overall, in my opinion. Just fantastic mini. Yeah, I love this one. I remember this is one of the first characters I had way back in the day in my small collection. And I just ran this thing for days, and it was so much fun. So, awesome Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker. Okay, next one from Alliance and Empire is Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Spirit. So Obi-Wan Kenobi is the first Jedi Spirit in the entire game. I'm not going to jump into Light Spirit. All you really need to know about this Obi-Wan Kenobi is it's the slowest of the Light Spirits at speed 2, which is, needs to be mentioned. Kind of a bummer, but it's also the cheapest too. So you have speed 8, or you have cost 8, so you sacrifice that speed to be a little more cost effective. But then you give Force Renewal and Metal to a allied unique character with a Force rating. So very nice to just kind of be like that Force battery to charge up. Unfortunately, in battle, this character is never going to be able to catch up to you, especially if you're taking the offensive. But it is nice to kind of get that charge up for sure. And it's fine. I think as Force special abilities go, he's good. He's a really good Force Spirit. Definitely nice to kind of use the background to charge up for any Rebel or Fringe characters that you may be running out there. And yeah, so honestly, I'd actually prefer, this might be controversial, I don't know, I'd honestly almost prefer Obi-Wan Kenobi's with Force Spirit 8 over this one. And the reason for that is the Obi-Wan Kenobi can do something, do some damage, maybe be a contributor to the team, then die, and then you can give Master of the Force and more Force points than you need to the character of your choice. And this one's just giving Force Renewal 1. And Metal's nice, it's just you're not going to have, this guy's not going to be around for you to actually be able to benefit from having Metal, so there's that. So Personally, I prefer the Force Spirit 8 for Obi-Wan's to the Jedi Spirit, but the Jedi Spirit is a nice, cheap option too if you want to make room for other stuff in your squad. So it's just a compromise, but personally, I prefer the other ones more. And that's just how it is. I really like the supercharge of getting Force Spirit 8 and Master of the Force without limited range, but either way, like I said, it's just a trade-off that you gotta make. Still a very nice mini, very cheap to kind of stick in there. Almost reminds me of like how you have the Sith Emperor Palpatine hologram. Emperor Palpatine hologram is pretty busted, but this character in the same way kind of has that role where you're kind of sitting around locally with someone, charging him up. Next one is a really sweet Obi-Wan Kenobi. So Obi-Wan Kenobi Unleashed. So this character is basically the OG Obi-Wan on mega steroids because it's from the Force Unleashed set. So overall, really good. The HP's good. That's pretty standard, 110. Actually, I think it might be a little bit lower because he's more expensive than Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Master, but has 10 less HP. It's not a huge difference. Anyway, the survivability, not really there on this guy, in my opinion, but he does have Force Heal and Renewal, so you can heal yourself several times and others. The attack is awesome. You still have 15 attack. Max damage is normal. Special abilities, same like I mentioned before. But your force powers are exceptional, and this is why. So you have Force Heal, Force 2, and Renewal, and Heal. So it's really, really cool that this character is one of the few healers with Renewal. So you can use that component if you want to in your squad. You have Force Push 2, which is fine. And then having Force Repulse 3 is pretty fun. So if you're in a situation where you're in a group, instead of using Sweep to hit a bunch of people, you can use Repulse to blast them all away, do lots of damage. And then again, Force Spirit 8. So you have this character with really nice force powers, pretty decent offense on him too, and Force Renewal. You can do a whole lot of damage, and then you can give your Force Spirit 8. The only con, he's a little more expensive. He's only cost 6 more. It's not a big deal. But I think the force powers are pretty insane on this character. So the special ability and the versatility, same as the last ones. Not really in there for synergy, but very versatile, especially this guy having decent, even better stats actually than the OG Kenobi. You also have, like I said, heal with Renewal. You can do some damage with offense on this, and then you can do their Force Spirit. So great versatility. This is one of my favorite Obi-Wan Kenobis for this reason. I love Force Spirit 8. I like that this guy can kick some butt before he needs to, basically to go die and give it up. And then Blue Milk Score would agree. This guy's a Force Specialist, in my opinion. All the different awesome Force powers going on there. Great. So basically, OG Obi-Wan on steroids, has the Force powers to really kind of kick some butt. The cons, he's a bit vulnerable. I mean, the other ones are also pretty vulnerable too, but this guy doesn't have any defensive powers, basically, other than decent stats for sure. So, in my opinion, Obi-Wan Kenobi Unleashed, probably the best, in my opinion, maybe the best Force Spirit character in the game. Just simply because it's the best Force Spirit mixed with someone who can really dish it before dying. So I think that's probably what I have to say. I do like Qui-Gon Jinn Jedi Master for being cheaper, for being only a 35, and giving a lot of Force points still too. So those are two of my favorite Force Spirit characters. I'll have to do a video someday on who does it best with Force Spirit. I think there's like 4 or 5 characters with it, so we'll see. That's a good idea. Let's move on to Obi-Wan Kenobi Padawan from KOTOR. The cheapest Obi-Wan Kenobi that can attack, not the Force Spirit. So this guy comes in at 22. He's good. He's actually on the fringe of being good, and we'll get into it. I used to think this Kenobi was kind of cool. I was like, oh yeah, he's KOTOR, he must be fine. When you're looking at him a little bit more deeply, though, he's pretty flawed, unfortunately. So your HP is fine for a 22 melee character. The survivability, though, is atrocious on this character. He just got nothing. He really has nothing. He has no defensive abilities to help out, no force powers to help out, and the defense is only 17, so I'm like, ugh, you're going to be kind of vulnerable. I mean, 17's fine, but I'm just not, this worries me a lot. So, defense, not there. So, the survivability on Obi-Wan Kenobi Padawan is just flat out bad across the board. The attack, though, is solid. You do have a Taru style that could come in from time to time. Keep that in mind, that's nice. Max damage is solid. I add flurry attack in there as like a cherry on top, which is nice if you get it to trigger. Special abilities are actually pretty sweet. They're nice. Not like great, but again, they're more cherry on top, very situational. And the force powers I said are good, and here's why. The force powers, I'd say in this case, you only have 3, but you have Assault. And Assault, especially on this type of a character, is really important and really good. So I do think that's something I need to appreciate. The ability Synergy, as opposed to previous Obi-Wans. Previous Obi-Wans, the synergy's not really there, but the versatility's there. This guy's the opposite. He's got really good synergy because of the way his whole kit is set up. You have Lightsaber Assault, you want to move and do multiple attacks. You want to do one-on-ones, so Ataru style works, and then you have flurry attack. So all those kind of work together really well, to be able to, get more attacks, to potentially use flurry, kind of up those odds. But it's not like it's really great synergy, but it's solid. The versatility, though, is bad. This guy's got no defense. He's got nothing else going for him besides kind of that narrow lane that he's going down, so not good on versatility. Obi-Wan score, I give him a fair score. Unfortunately, I do like the kind of the flavor of what they're going for here, but overall, it's just kind of, it's not bad, just underpowered. Maybe he's missing something to kind of keep a bit afloat a little bit better. Maybe if this guy had a little better defense, or maybe you mix in having deflect as an option, that could be nice, or something else. Anyway, not the best Obi-Wan. Blue Milk would agree that this is the worst Obi-Wan Kenobi of the bunch. He's a one-on-one duelist, but he's also by far the most expensive. So because this guy is a very rare from KOTOR, KOTOR is notoriously one of the most expensive sets to collect. Like, every very rare in that set costs at least like $50 or more, which is crazy. There's got to be a reason for that. If you know the reason, please let me know. I'm wondering if it's because it was like the last set of 60. We'll see. Anyways, the pros, nice kit for one-on-one dueling. He's a cheap character. That's also nice to include too. But the cons, his stats are pretty meh. He can't protect himself. He can get shredded. And it's all offense, no defense, which isn't necessarily a con. It's just a consideration. But anyway, we'll kind of go with that. Let's move into the last 2 Obi-Wan Kenobis. So General Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Gok, as people call him. So just some heads up really quick. I know there's a errata. Suresu style mastery isn't what it says anymore. However, from a lot of people I've talked to, they describe Suresu style mastery as being, when you're hit by a melee attack, you take no damage with save of 11 or higher. I've met people and read things that say that. Personally, though, whenever I use this character, I do it basically as like lightsaber deflect. When hit by an attack, this character takes no damage. When hit by a non-melee attack, this character takes no damage with a save of 11. That's how I've always played this particular character, especially when you're taking into consideration how OP Suresu style mastery is. Like I said, that may not be correct. That may not be the way that people in the community do it, but it makes sense to me since Makashi style in my opinion, is the style that is more for, it's like more lightsaber block-ish oriented. And previous Obi-Wan Kenobis, several have deflect already. So to me, it makes much, much more sense for Suresu style mastery to get, fixed and to be more of an anti-ranged power instead. So that's the direction I'm going to be reviewing this Obi-Wan Kenobi. And if you play with Suresu style mastery being against melee characters, great, just kind of flop everything I say to apply to melee instead of ranged. But I want to give you that kind of nugget up front, just because that's how I always treated this, and it makes sense to me personally, but I mean, there's different ways you can go about it. It's probably not official, but anyway. So let's jump into it. This Obi-Wan Kenobi is awesome. Even with Suresu style mastery being corrected, still awesome. The HP, though, for 55 is actually a little underwhelming, but the range survivor ability is exceptional. Because you have Suresu style mastery, you have good defense already, you have metal, Master the Force 2, and you have night speed. And so this guy, he can just re-roll and, oopsies, Suresu style didn't work out, let's re-roll at a +4 bonus. Okay, I'm good. So like this guy's, and Master of the Force 2, you could deflect, you can use lots of re-rolling, multiple attacks. So this guy's range survivability is insane. Absolutely like bonkers insane. Even if you say, Suresu style mastery is actually for melee instead of non-melee, Okay, well then melee survivability is insane. Anyways, it's still a fantastic power. The melee survivability, though, is kind of poor because everything's kind of geared around that. But you do have night speed. You have a little mobility to kind of get you around, though. The attack is really good. Instead of having 15, this guy's 14. Still solid. The max damage is pretty standard. Special abilities are awesome. Most of that's really just due to how strong, Suresu Style Mastery is, and Metal. You have exceptional, really, really good force powers. Did I make a mistake here? Oh, I totally made a mistake here. Let me correct that. I'll be right back. Yeah, sorry about that. I had to make a quick change because for force powers, this was only rated at 3.5, and I was like, that's not right at all. These guys' force powers they're awesome. They are awesome force powers, so I had to go in and make that change. Oopsies. I only changed the number, not the actual thing. So it says really good. That's not true. 4.5, these are awesome force powers. You have Renewal, Push 3, Night Speed, Master of the Force. So fantastic force powers. You have this stuff helps with the defense, mobility, offense right here. Force Push 3, it's kind of offense and defense. Fantastic force powers in my opinion. You have the ability. Synergy is exceptional. These powers, Suresu style, plays off of having Renewal, plays off of having Metal, plays off of... So you have incredible just synergy in your powers working together to make you very strong. Definitely a big fan of that. And also extremely versatile as well. So lots of things. Commander effects, mobility, like I said, that kind of defensive powers. Good stats as well. So this guy there's a lot that General Obi-Wan Kenobi can't do. Really good overall. So commander effect is also awesome. So each follower gets +4 attack and +4 defense as long as it has an ally within 6 squares. That's generally a very easy condition to succeed with, and that's a big boost. +4/+4. If you have characters, maybe like a lot of troopers, that's a big bonus for all of them. So depending on who you run with, that's a I think that's an awesome commander effect. It's a very easy one to satisfy, and it's a big bonus when you do have it satisfied. So big fan of this commander effect overall. When it comes to the Obi-Wan score, I'd give this an exceptional. This is, in my opinion, the best Obi-Wan Kenobi in the game. I don't really like using this Obi-Wan, even if you change Suresu Style Mastery. I know it's much more fair. Of course, it's more reasonable. And he has his weaknesses. I'll get into those. I think I'm just kind of tainted by this General Obi-Wan Kenobi existing, but even if you do change him, perfectly fine to use, and in terms of fairness, but just so strong. This guy is so strong. I don't know what Wizards was thinking when they first rolled him out, but still really good. Blue Milk, I think he has one of the highest Blue Milk scores in the game. He's an anti-range duelist commander, easy to get a hold of. The pros, so even with the errata and homemade fixes to change Suresu Style Mastery, this guy is still the god of the game pretty much. It's still just having Master of the Force 2 and Metal and Renewal is just so insane when it comes to range survivability that it's great. So like I said, incredible survivability. This commander effect is dynamite in my opinion, and his cons, so he can bleed force quickly, and depending on how you play Suresu Style Mastery, that can bleed your force points pretty fast if you're missing things. So yeah, just keep that in mind. That's kind of one of his weaknesses, is that this all sounds great and fine, but as soon as you run out of those force points, then Suresu Style Mastery is great because it's still an ability. You're not re-rolling. You don't have to re-roll for misses. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Yes, you can bleed force, but at the end of the day, you still don't have to spend force to actually use the power. You just get to use it. So it is a con consideration. If you light this guy up really quick, then he can actually take that damage and kind of go down. So not invincible, but so powerful. Last but not least is Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi General. So Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi General, a really, really fun, interesting flavor of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And here's why. So he's great. I'd say it's probably the third second best Kenobi in the game. The HP though, this guy's expensive, so he's 66, by far the most expensive Kenobi. So the HP's kind of fallen behind at that point. At that point, characters typically are in the 140 range, maybe even 150, and that's okay. So the survivability on this guy is really, really good, and this is why. So this is why I gave him it, because he has Suresu Style Mastery and Metal still. but he only has Force 5, so it's not unlimited force. But then he also has surprise move, so that's a really great advantageous power to kind of get out of situations, to kind of move around. Flight can do that too. So really nice survivability, more fair survivability in my opinion, in terms of fairness, in terms of like it's not over the top insane. The melee survivability is decent as well because you have flight and surprise move. You can use that to your advantage, but nothing like directly defending you. The attack is good. The max damage is a little underwhelming. At this point, if you're just doing double attack, you're not doing enough. So the damage output is kind of mediocre, I'd say in this case. Maybe even poor, honestly. Special abilities are fantastic. So this guy, he's got flight and double and metal and Suresu. So great defensive stuff. Great stuff when it comes to maneuvering. I just think he's got some exceptional special abilities. Big fan of this combination. And even though he's melee, it's still really good. So next we have the force powers are great. I think that's kind of weird about him. So he has force 5, and then he just has one power, it's a surprise move. So really you're going to be using your force powers on using surprise move a couple times, and then re-rolling with metal, Suresu style mastery a couple times. And that's pretty much it. So still a really great character, but I think surprise, it would be nice and kind of fun to have more variety of force powers, but I understand what they're going for here. You know, you want Suresu style mastery to work. You want to use surprise move to take advantage of your mobility, get that to work too. So I get it. It doesn't feel like it's extremely overwhelmingly powerful, but they are really great when you really, even though it's there's just one power plus re-rolling, it's nice to be able to do that too. Plus, there's ways, and you could use Qui-Gon Jinn, have him die, give this guy a bunch of force. There you go. So, ability synergy and the versatility are both awesome. The synergy is great because of the mobility, the surprise move, getting around all these powers play off each other really, really nicely to kind of get him where you want him. And then the versatility is great too, just because for the same reasons, and also having a nice commander effect. Not even an incredible commander effect. So let's move on to the commander effect. I did a video quite a while ago comparing the extra attack commander effects, and there's quite a few of them out there, and they're all worded a little different conditions. But from that video and from that analysis, I found that this commander effect, so General Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi General's extra attack, is the best one in the game flat out. So allies within 6 squares gain extra attack, and it's the allies condition. It's 6 squares, but Masamada can fix that easy enough, or droids. And it's extra attack on a team with so many freaking amazing options for giving extra attack. You can give extra attack to, several Captain Rexes. You can give extra attack to a lot of awesome super stealthers. You can give extra attack to tons of amazing Jedi. It's just the list goes on and on. Like, you can give extra attack to the best options available, and that's why I think his commander effect stands out as being truly exceptional. Just because he is the best giver of extra attack in the game, in my opinion. There's 1 or 2 characters that are in close second, but it's clearly the best. So fantastic there. This Obi-Wan Kenobi score, I still give him a 5, even though maybe he's not as outrightly obnoxious as General Obi-Wan Kenobi. I still think that this guy's pretty sweet, like pretty dang awesome. Blue Milk agrees, and so I have to kind of give him that nod as well. This commander effect is so freaking good. And then he's a flying duelist commander. His pros, again, he's also anti-ranged as well. His pros are he's the best iteration of extra attack in the game. Very nice mobility. And the cons, he just has poor offensive output. If you put him in the wrong situation, he can get torn up pretty quick for how expensive he is. So be careful. You got to really be very deliberate, very intentional about how you maneuver this character, how you use him, because he's really, really good. But it's not the easiest character to use for some of those reasons. You only have a double attack. You don't really have anything to defend you against melee other than your mobility. So you got to be very cautious how you tactically move him around. But he's fantastic in my opinion. So let's move on now to the final rating. So when it comes to the final rating, we got in last place Obi-Wan Kenobi Padawan, not surprised. Then General Kenobi from Clone Strike, a good character for sure. Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Master, which ended up having the same rating. Honestly, Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Master, in my opinion, you could say he's a little better, but he's more expensive. His commander effect's more specific, whereas General Kenobi's is really nice and more broad. So there's pros and cons, but they rated about the same. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the original, then Obi-Wan on Boga, Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Spirit 351, Obi-Wan Kenobi Unleashed at 371, Jedi General at 424, and then Landspeeder at 425, and then General Obi-Wan Kenobi at 4. It's actually 437, but this is 432. Either way, same thing. Luke's Landspeeder barely edged him out just because it is such a beast of a hit-and-run machine. But General Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi General, if you wanted to swap him and make him second, I wouldn't blame you at all. Definitely has the justification to do it, in my opinion. So moving on, here's my final matrix. Definitely take a look at it. Let me go back to it. Feel free to pause if you want to take a look. See how they all compare to each other. I'd say generally, there's a few different flavors of Obi-Wan. You have these Force Spirit Obi-Wans, which are, typically are on the Rebels. Actually, they're all on the Rebels. Really, really nice when it comes to giving characters Force Spirit, and they can do some damage on their way out. Then you have the Republic Obi-Wan Kenobis, which vary all over the place. Typically some sort of commander, maybe 120, 21, and 15 attacks, somewhere around there, doing a variety of different stuff. But the cool thing with Obi-Wan Kenobi is they do share some similarities and commonalities, but there's a lot of different fun stuff going on here with different kinds that you prefer. So definitely Obi-Wan Kenobi, a really fun character overall. Some of them don't really use very often for obvious reasons, but there's some really great options. Very infamous for having one of the best characters in the game with General Obi-Wan Kenobi, but still a lot of fun overall. But anyways, I think that about wraps it up. Please like, please subscribe, please comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts on all these Obi-Wan Kenobis in general. What are your favorite ones? Which ones stick out to you? And just what are your general thoughts about going through all these different Obi-Wans? As always, please let me know of other characters you want to do. There's a few in the pipeline that I have in mind that I'll put out at some point. I still want to make that KOTOR cast characters. I put out a poll about that a long time ago, but because it's such a big one to cover, a lot of characters, I've been kind of pushing it off for a while. I'll get to it at some point. Anyways, in the meantime, thank you very much, and have a good one.